Greetings, friends. I'm AK,
And I'm Laura,
and we are the
the
Chainsaw
Chainsaw Girls.
Girls.
On today's episode, oh boy, do we have a fun one. We have not covered any Marvel movies, and that changes today. We are covering 1998's Blade.
Yes, and I realized last week, or maybe it's 2 weeks ago now, I should have worn my Queen of the Dam shirt for this episode, so I'm wearing it again.
Oh, I was about to say,
Because it's
gosh darn it, but
vampires.
you're wearing it. I'm
Yes.
wearing I'm wearing like a vampire shirt as well. Very
And I
cute.
noticed in that last episode we did, Candyman, that you were wearing a vampire shirt in that one too. And I was like, oh shit, we should have saved
I
it for
was?
this vampire movie. I actually have two Queen of the Dam shirts and I could not find the other one. So don't worry, everyone. I did my laundry. This shirt is clean and I'm wearing it again.
Hey, even if it was dirty, that's okay. You're allowed to wear a dirty shirt. I have a lot of vampire clothes,
You
honestly.
do. We are
Yeah.
ready. I could not find Blade streaming anywhere, but I did have to rent it and it was totally worth it.
Mm.
I'm actually embarrassed to admit that this was my first time watching Blade ever. Did you see it when you were a
Wow. I mean,
kid?
to be fair, yeah, I saw it like many years ago, but I did not remember it. Like, I did not remember it at all, dude. And when it started, I was like, oh my, how did I not? How was I
Yeah.
not obsessed with this movie? It's so fucking awesome.
That's how I felt watching it. I was like, how did I not watch this as a kid? And I realized when I
Yeah.
started getting through like the gist of it, I knew exactly why I didn't watch it. And it's because I didn't realize this was a vampire movie when I was a kid. I thought it was just an action movie. There is plenty of action.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense because I thought it was an action movie as well when I was young. I knew
Mhm.
there were vampires in it, but I looked at it more as an action movie than I did
Yeah.
as like a not werewolf. Oh my god, vampire horror movie. But now watching it back, I'm like, this is so cool, and it was like the start of the Marvel movies.
Yes, and kickstarted their success in all their movies. Like a lot of people think of Spider-Man. There was another one that came out right around 2000. And I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head, but no, Blade came first.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Should we read the IMDb?
Oh, I think we surely should. Except I don't have it up, so give me 2 seconds and I'll grab it. A half vampire, half mortal man becomes a protector of the mortal race while slaying evil vampires. To the point. This was directed by Stephen Norrington, and it was written by David S. Goyer. Blade had a budget of 45 million. It grossed 131.2 million in the box office. Also, I did have IMDb up. I just missed it in my notes.
Perfect.
It
It's
stars
okay.
Wesley Snipes. It stars Wesley Snipes as Blade, and can I just say he is so fucking cool in this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. When I started watching this, I was like, oh, The Matrix had to have pulled inspiration from Blade. This came out before The
They both
Matrix.
came out the same time. I know, but so closely. I
Yes.
think they were filming very
Yeah.
closely together, and they
But
came out
especially
around the
like
same time.
there's a scene where Deacon Frost kind of moves out of the way from a bullet and I'm like, "Oh, that's the Matrix right there." But before the
Yep,
Matrix.
absolutely. Yep, exactly, exactly. And there are a total of 3 Blade movies. There's Blade 1, 2, and Blade Trinity. And for those who don't know, Blade is based off of comic books. He was in, I believe he debuted in 1973. The Tomb of Dracula was the first time that Blade made an appearance in the comics.
Yes, and there is a lot of talk about a fourth Blade movie coming out soon, but it kept getting pushed back, and I really don't have an answer on when the next one is supposed to come out. There's a lot of debate on that.
Okay, interesting. Hopefully it does because he was in there was a new one that came out, Deadpool and Wolverine, I believe. Blade was in
Mm.
it. And I don't know. Do you want to just hop into the episode and we can kind of touch
Yeah,
on
let's
things
do
as
it
we
because I
go?
think a lot of my little fun facts and things I want to say are sprinkled throughout.
I love that. Let's go.
All right, so we are kicking off this movie in 1967. We are at a hospital and we see that a woman is being rushed into the ER. This is Vanessa. She looks like she's bleeding from the neck, and we see that she's pregnant. So they show the baby being delivered and the mother reaching out for it, and then we go right to the credits. And I loved the credits here. They're over this sped up cityscape that looks really cool, feels very comic book.
And they pull a lot of inspiration from the Batman movies from the late 80s, early 90s. So the Michael Keaton Batman movies, they pulled a lot of inspo from that. And you could really tell Right, just even that one scene, it looks very much like Gotham. It has that sort of, like, comic book
Yes.
vibe for sure.
Oh, yeah, it
Mhm.
it you can totally feel that. And so we will find out that
Yeah,
this is Blade's mother. So now we
right.
cut to Tracy Lord as Raquel and this guy in her car, her little boo thing, speeding through the
Oh.
city.
Oh, her little just wait, her little boo thing, is credited as heat-seeking Dennis.
Oh, I did not catch that. I love that. I'm
I've
actually
called him
shocked they gave him
heat-seeking
a name.
Dennis. Dude, my whole notes, it says heat-seeking Dennis throughout it.
Well, luckily you didn't have to write that for very long, but we do cut to them racing
No.
through the city. She ends up like, I don't know, they're flirting. She grabs him by the dick, and he's like, I love
Mhm.
surprises. She takes him to this meat factory. Like, what is this?
Y
Like, this is your surprise, babe. There's just like
yes, and there's,
carcasses
like
hanging.
there are also bodies hanging, like, they're, like you can't
Yes.
see, but they're, like, in, like, gimmicks, and I think originally they wanted this to be a much larger, much bigger scale sort of set. That didn't actually work out, I don't think, the way they wanted to. They had, like, storyboarded out some, like, pretty big ideas,
Yeah.
but it just came down to what you see here, and, yeah, heat-seeking Dennis. Can we also talk about heat-seeking Dennis's fucking hat? Because that was a choice. What a 1998 staple, eh?
There are so many fashion choices in this movie that were very of the time, and they just gave me
Mhm.
life. Like, wait till we get to Pixie Cut Girl. We're almost to Pixie Cut Girl.
Oh, okay, let's keep going, we got it.
Yeah, so heat-seeking Dennis catches that maybe one of these bodies in a bag is not a beef carcass, and he's like, "What is that?" And Raquel, who has this cunt red wig on, okay, she just grabs him and starts making out with him. Like she doesn't want to answer his question, so just distract him instead, right? She
That's
starts
it,
speaking
that's
another
it.
language to the guard, and he's like, Dennis is like, "What did you just say?" They're still making out. She's distracting him. And then we go into a secret door and we get to the rave scene.
Dude, the amount of times I've been in places like this when I was, like, very young is disturbing to me, minus the blood coming out of the sprinklers, but this specific, like, layout rave thing, I mean, I was, like, 13, 14 going to places like
I am
this.
so fucking jealous because one thing I'm sad about being a kid in the 90s is that I didn't get to experience this. So I'm very
Oh, okay,
jealous.
well, I was early 2000s for me, that was, like, I would say, like, 99, 2000,
Yeah,
so
but
I guess
still,
around that time, kind
like
of.
you got
Mhm,
to do that
yeah,
as a kid. I did not get to do that as a kid. I was very sheltered. And I wish I could have experienced that 90s. Like that's what I was doing when the episode started. If
yeah.
you're watching on YouTube, I was doing my rave dance.
This is the rave dance.
Oh,
And you have
yeah,
little
with
glow sticks and
glow sticks,
pacifiers in
yeah.
your mouth, all kinds of shit, man.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah, for sure. So this is like a big this is kind of like it looks like a warehouse, a big warehouse. It's just people partying. You can tell right away that these people don't seem like actual people. Like there's definitely like an aggression to the people dancing. We do get a quick shot of Mercury in the crowd. She's there.
So
And Raquel.
Mercury is Pixie Cut Girl, just so you know. That's what I called her the entire time in my
Oh,
notes because I could not find her name. But yes, Mercury has like
oh,
the
Mercury.
peak 90s hair.
Oh
I
yeah,
actually
that
tried to
that
do
white platinum
yes, and short, and there's one scene where
looks
she
great.
has like the quintessential late 90s, early 2000s like white girl hairstyle, and I
Yeah.
I kind of
Yes.
tried to do like a similar like spiky little bun. I cannot do hair. I hate doing my hair. I like doing
Yeah.
makeup, hate doing hair. But she like if you wanna
Same.
know what it felt like to be in the 90s, even though I wasn't this age, watch this movie, honestly, the whole movie.
Oh no, absolutely. So Raquel, she's not being as nice to Dennis, okay, as heat seeking Dennis. They're like kind of making out, but she's definitely like kind of guiding and pushing him into this big, group of what we will soon find out are vampires. And at one point, we do end up seeing Frost, Deacon, who we will find out is a very important player in this, but he will pass through this big group and head to wherever the fuck he's going. And heat seeking Dennis is kind of in the middle of this crowd, and all of a sudden he's like, I feel something wet on my head. What on earth is that? And he goes to touch it and he looks at his hands, and blood is leaking from, well, we'll find out in a second, is leaking onto Dennis's head. And it's very confusing. And then all of a sudden, this the sprinklers go off and it's all blood, baby. And it's
Yes, there's a
everywhere.
huge banner, like, written in spray paint behind the DJ that says, "Bloodbath." And then Raquel turns to him and says, "What's wrong, baby?" And then they're all turning into vampires. They're all flashing their fangs. Heat-seeking Dennis, which I laugh every time you say it, is screaming. He tries to run away. He ends up getting punched in the face. And then the vampires actually just start beating the shit out of him, which I wasn't expecting. Like, instead of biting him,
Yeah,
they're
like they're
just
like
kicking
annoyed.
him.
Yeah. They're annoyed with him. They think he's
Yeah.
like an idiot. So they're just, and he was very annoying. Like, I didn't even say that at the beginning. Like, he is pretty annoying. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. So he's crawling on the ground. He ends up at someone's feet. And then you hear amongst the crowd, there's a hush, and everyone goes, "Oh my gosh, is that him? Oh my gosh, it's Blade. It's the Daywalker." Blade is there in his black trench coat, sunglasses on, looking clean, looking crisp. He pulls out a gun and just starts blasting everyone. Like, one thing about Blade is he is going to come in blasting, okay? He ain't waiting. He might say one really cool one-liner, but he's shooting the whole place up.
Yeah. Him showing up there was iconic.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as he came on screen, I was like, oh shit, it's motherfucking Blade. Like, I was like losing my shit because they introduce him so well. And he does. He ends up shooting up the place. He's fucking up all the vampires. And heat-seeking Dennis, he's saving heat-seeking Dennis, okay? So
Yeah.
he's killing up all these vampires. More are coming. He's got swords. He can, like, kick ass. Like, he is just beating the shit out of all these fucking vampires.
Yeah, he has an entire arsenal in his jacket. Like, he just keeps pulling out different weapons all the
Like,
time. The vampires are disintegrating and turning into bones and ash from this, which I will say, this is a very early CGI. This is very of the time CGI, which now when you watch it, I'm sure some of you might see it and go, "Oh, that doesn't look the best." But just know at the time, this was like the top technology for CGI. And the rest of the movie is done so well that I forgive it.
Yeah.
I'm not bothered by it.
No, same. Me too. And the vampires going to dust remind me of Buffy. And there was always whenever you watch Buffy, like there's always a slight delay when the CG hits and the vamps turn into dust. So that's just kind of what it reminded me of. I
It's
don't
like
think they go too
nostalgic.
heavy-handed with the CG. Yeah, exactly. It's like charming. I don't know. And there's a little bit CG later with the blood that I'll touch on. But we're gonna be introduced to Quinn here. When Quinn comes in, he looks fucking wild, by the way. Okay. So, but he also comes across like a total J-brone, and that's what I thought he was at the very beginning. I went, oh, look at this jabroni. He's
A
gonna die
J-Brone.
immediately. So Blade ends up actually like nailing Quinn to the walls of what looks like, what would you say that was? Probably where they kill the cows and the blood draws. I draw like goes down the drain. I think that's
Yeah, it's
where it
like a
is.
pit.
But a pit, yeah. So it almost looks like the crucifix. He nails him to this wall and he tells Quinn that he's tired of chopping him up, so instead he's going to light him on fire, which makes me think that he's gotten into tussles with Quinn several times and has
Right.
likely cut off his limbs more than once, right? So he sets him on fire. This looks very painful, okay? And then the police show up, but it's just heat-seeking Dennis on the floor, and they're all looking confused because Blade, he pieced the fuck out.
Yeah. He escaped through like a sewer or something. He's off into the night. And then we cut to
Very
some doctors.
Batman-like.
Oh, very Batman-like. And then we cut to some doctors, medics unzipping his body in a body bag, and he is burnt to a crisp, okay? And then we cut to Karen Jensen looking at these red blood cells through a microscope. She's talking to Curtis. We learn here that they used to be together.
I had a little something about this scene that I wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
It's very small, but it's
Please.
something. So the scene between Curtis and Karen, that little sort of, we find out that they had a thing together. They were probably dating at some point. The director referred to this scene as the Melrose Place scene. And he said that basically like putting a dull romantic segment in it lulls the audience into a false sense of security. And I guess the studio really wanted to cut the scene, but the director was like, no, like this works here. And it does. It really does. And it got one of the strongest reactions on a test screening that they did.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it definitely does make you forget for a second what is coming. And it also, it lulls you into that security, like you said, because they're talking casually, right, about their relationship. Curtis
Mhm.
randomly asks if she ever has second thoughts about him while they're over this charred body because he's trying to convince Karen that this body is dead. She's saying the red blood cells are still alive. So no, this person cannot be dead. He wants her to come see the body.
Yeah.
So as they're over the body, they're casually having this conversation. And then Quinn's body jumps up out of nowhere, starts biting Curtis's neck.
Mhm.
Karen runs out of the room, but he
Mhm.
catches her and bites her too. I was shocked by this because as I'm watching it for the
Dude,
first time, I'm thinking, oh, wait, I thought she was going to be a main character. He's killing her already? Not quite.
agreed 100%. And I think that that false sense of security with Curtis as well, because they kind of made Curtis seem like an important player. And when the scene happens here where Quinn chases her out through the hospital, he actually eats shit and hits the ground and dislocated his jaw, which had already been like broken years before. And he was screaming in pain. And there was so much screaming going on. They didn't realize that it was his actually, like he was actually hurt, but he was. Yeah, he
Oh,
actually hurt himself.
shit. Oh, that has to hurt
Mhm.
so bad. Like, I've had my
Yeah,
jaw
exactly.
not dislocated,
Oh,
thank
oh,
goodness,
sorry.
knock on wood, but I've had my
Yeah.
bites misaligned from getting hit in the jaw so hard in wrestling matches. I can't even I don't even wanna imagine, knock on wood.
No, no, exactly. And they were filming in an abandoned hospital as well. So they had to go to a real hospital and he was all in that third-degree burn charred makeup when they rolled him into the hospital. And he
Holy
said that,
shit.
there's a quote that says, "I've got this guy who's dressed as a third-degree burn victim, essentially naked, running in with his jaw hanging down, and the room cleared out pretty fast."
Can we also talk about how scary he looked in that makeup? He looked crazy when he's
Dude,
biting Karen's
so
neck,
scary.
and then they both look up and they see Blade walking down the hall in slow motion. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quinn
No, it's so
has
good.
the audacity to call Blade a freak here as he's completely charred to the bone. The police show up, start shooting Blade for some reason. It just bounces off his armor. And he says, "Motherfucker, are you out
Mhm.
of your damn mind?" He
I
has so many
loved
good
it.
one-liners.
Mhm.
Quinn just jumps out of a window. He goes into like the
Yeah.
back of an ambulance. There's some lady back there. She's freaking out. He escapes. Blade is about to leave, but he looks at Karen. He has a moment where it seems like he's remembering his mother, right? And he picks her up and starts walking down the hall with
Mhm.
her. The police are
Mhm.
still trying to shoot him. The way he yeets her out this window is so funny. He just tosses her like
Oh,
across
he
to another
throws her.
building.
Dude, I was like, he couldn't possibly be throwing her to another building's roof, can he? And he just yeets her out the window.
Yes.
Wild.
And then he jumps over there, no problem. Her shoulder's
Mhm.
dislocated, so he has to put it back in place. It looks very painful. That comes back later.
Mhm.
And they do
Mhm.
escape through the roof of this building as the police are still trying to shoot at him. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess they thought that Blade was taking her hostage, not saving her, so that's why they
Yeah.
were shooting. I don't know. But
I mean, there's a
Blade,
lot there, like, it's confusing, right? Like,
yeah,
they're just getting on the scene, and here's, like, it's just, like, kind of mayhem, so I kinda
yeah,
get it, although just opening fire like that is kind of fucking questionable, but
yeah. So Blade is
a
now
little bit.
driving.
Anyway. Uh-huh.
And he's driving Karen, who's kind of out of it. She eventually passes out. Blade is just very serious demeanor the entire movie, very stoic is how I would describe him. And by the time he rolls up to this
Stoic and
industrial, oh, go ahead.
well, sorry, I was gonna say stoic, but one of the things I think is so incredible about Wesley Snipes is he has sunglasses on the whole movie. Very rarely does he take them off, right? There are
Mhm.
certain moments. He conveys all of his emotions, all of his, like, everything with such subtlety. Even with those sunglasses, you
Yeah.
still fucking get a sense of how he's feeling in the moment. Do you know how hard that is? That is so hard and so subtle. And he wanted this to be an action movie. He wanted it reminded him of, like, he wanted it to be like the movies he watched from China, like the kung fu movies and shit like that. That's what he
Mhm.
wanted to incorporate into these fight scenes that he did. Sorry, I'm going off about Wesley Snipes because I think he's so
No, no,
fucking
no.
great.
That's what we're
But,
here to
like,
do, right?
dude, and just seeing, like, what he wanted out of Blade, like, he wanted him to kick ass in that old school sort of way, and it's exactly what we get, that, like, Fuck, I love it so much. Okay, sorry, I
Yeah.
digress.
No,
Continue.
don't apologize because actually, since you're on that topic, Wesley Snipes has been doing martial arts since he was a kid. So he actually did almost all of his own stunts in this movie, which is also
We
really
stand,
badass. And
man.
it makes sense why he'd want to bring that aspect to this movie as well.
Yeah, 100%. So we're heading off to Blade's lair here, which is kind of like an old abandoned like factory. And we're introduced to Whistler, and Whistler's played by Chris Christopherson. And the Whistler character was created for Blade's cameo in the Spider-Man animated series. I think that was
Mm,
back in like 94. Did you ever watch that show? I watched it when I was a kid.
I don't think so.
Well, he was the character was liked so much by the Marvel CEO that he was then brought into the Marvel universe. And one thing I wanted to point out about this specific scene, and as we're getting into this like layer, my mom was watching this with me. It was her first time seeing it. And one thing that she pointed out were the colors. That everything in this movie looks very like almost gray, dark. And then she said, but then when you see scenes with the humans they look like brighter. Like there's a contrast between the characters
Mm,
and the setting. And
yeah.
I thought that was so interesting. And she was just saying how it contrasts life and death. And I was like, gosh
Wow.
darn, mom, you should come on the pod.
Did she smoke a doobie right before this? I already know the answer.
So I don't know. I thought that was kind of insightful. I just hadn't seen it like that. So I thought that
Yeah, I
was kind of
love
cool.
that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point out for no particular reason, because I'm not even a car person, but I felt like I had to look up what car he was driving because it felt like a character in its own right.
Dude, that's what my mom said. My mom goes, can you pause it and find out what kind of car he's driving? Because I think that's important.
Yeah, okay. So I'm glad that she thinks it's important. I did look it up and I found that it's a
Mhm.
1968 Dodge Charger, which initially in my notes I wrote that it was a Mustang because I don't know cars and I just think every
I
muscle
wouldn't know the
car is a
difference.
Mustang.
Agreed. Sure, it's a
Yeah,
Mustang, whatever.
it
Yeah,
looks like a Mustang. So, yes,
must be
now
it.
Whistler in here, he's using power tools. He's rocking out to Bad Moon Rising, which we talked about a lot in An American Werewolf in London. I knew you
Now
were
I'm
going to love
singing in
that
my
part.
head. Mhm.
And Blade is yelling to Whistler to get his attention. He tells Whistler that this woman has been bitten, and Whistler straight up says, "Well, you should have killed her then." Because he ain't playing around.
Oh, yeah. No, 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 no. Yeah, Whistler is grizzled. Whistler is like the grizzled old vet, who's
Yes.
seen it all, who's felt it all. He's got that raspy voice because he's
Yeah.
just seen it everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
Whistler.
he knows what he's talking
Mhm.
about. He knows what he's doing. And he
Yeah.
tells Blade, "You better watch her close. If she starts to turn, you better kill her or I will." And he also says that he thinks that she'll change in about an hour if she's going to change. So he ends up injecting her
Mm.
with garlic and he tells her this is going to hurt a lot, which just looked horrible. All the injections in this
Mhm.
movie look so
Yeah.
painful. He also thinks she
Yeah.
only has a 50-50 chance of making it through the night. So now we cut
Mm.
to exactly what you would expect a vampire board meeting to look like. It's very gothic, and we meet Dragonetti, which is such a fucking cool name. I was like,
I
wait,
love it
what?
too. Yes, I love it too. And can we talk about the boardroom? Like their chairs almost look like capes. Like the way that
Yes,
they've have them designed, they almost have this sort of like
it's so gothic.
collar to them. That's what it looks like behind them.
Yeah.
Gothic, yes, very gothic. Yeah. So we're introduced to, like you said, there's this council of vampires. One of them is Dragnetti. What we find out here is that these are all blood-born vampires. They were born vampires, they weren't turned, except for our friend and my favorite character in this entire fucking movie, Deacon Frost. Okay, so Deacon, we find out, is not a pureblood vampire. He was turned. And he's the type of person that wants a revolution, okay? In the worst possible fucking way.
Yeah.
He has a vision for what he wants the world to look like, right? And his ideas are not what the vampires want. The vampires coexist with humans right now. They are in everything. They own real estate. They are, and we'll find all this out. But basically, the vampires have their hands in everything. Deacon wants to rule everything. He wants vampires to rule the world. He wants to turn everyone into a vampire, and then he wants to supply them with the blood to stay alive. Basically, okay. So there's definitely tension between the OG vampires and Deacon Frost.
Deacon is being such a little shit. He's giving all the elders, I would call them, shit. I will say about the language, there was actually a linguist. I have a better note about this later in my notes. There was a linguist that was hired to create a language for this movie, but it is rooted in like Russian, Czech. There are some actual words from other languages in interspersed, I think is the word, into this language, but it is a language made up for the movie.
Yes, that is so cool. Oh my god, I love that.
We also find out that Deacon, he owns, I call him Deacon and Frost throughout my notes, but it's Deacon Frost. And so we find out that he
Me
owns
too.
the nightclubs
Mhm.
and that the elders think he has a liability, which he 100% is.
Oh yeah, he's okay, when I say he's my favorite character, I'm not saying I think he's a good person
Right, right.
by any stretch. I just really like his character. Like I really liked him and like let's be honest here. He's a vampire and he's fucking hot. Like
I mean,
I
yeah,
can't.
Steven Dorff, who plays uh, Deacon, he does such a great job. He's such a little shit.
He's so good. He's such a little shit and he's so confident and
Yeah.
like yeah. Okay, anyways. So we are finished with the council, right? We're cutting back to Blade visiting Cam, and he tosses Cam some expensive watches that he stole from the vampires. And then Cam, in exchange, gives him some serum. So we find out here that Blade is building up a tolerance to the serum that he's injected with, and the syrup helps his bloodlust. Okay. And it seems like he has to keep taking more and more. And
Yeah.
we're also like sitting here going, okay, well, why did he steal those watches and give them to Cam? Right. And we're going to find out why. We're going to find out why, but this is sort of where we're at.
Yeah. Now, Karen at this time is waking back up. She's in this lair and she starts looking around. She finds this giant sword. She touches the handle and something starts spinning on it. And then these little blades shoot out of the handle like a booby trap.
So, yes, she's looking at this sword. First of all, I love that there's a booby trap on it. Amazing. But originally, okay, Goyer explained in the DVD commentary that the scene was actually a lot longer. And instead of her discovering a sword, she discovered a weird hybrid infant of some kind floating in a tank. And it also came with a jump scare. And Goyer says, I think it would have scared the living shit out of the audience, but New Line felt it was just too horrible. So we didn't get to see that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And what was that infant going to be? Like they're creating their own.
Exactly.
What? Okay.
I don't know, but I just thought that was wild.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is wild. So when Karen sees Blade being injected, she just freaks out and runs, but she can't really get anywhere, right? So they both end up catching up to her. She wants to know if she's a prisoner. Whistler says no, but they
Mhm.
just had to take certain precautions to make sure she wasn't going to turn. And he tells her the lore about the hominis nocturna, or vampires. This was a made up term for the movie to roughly translate to men of the night. The individual words are Latin, but as a phrase, it's not actually something that's said in Latin. So it was just made up for the movie. Uh, this is a world, I thought this was very interesting. This is a world where people do know what vampires are. They know the vampire lore and stories, but they don't think vampires are real. So then Whistler tells Karen here they are allergic to silver, sunlight, ultraviolet
Right.
rays. So we're using a lot of vampire lore we know. I didn't know the UV ray one. So I don't know if that was just made up for this movie or not.
I'm not totally sure, but I think it's interesting that the silver makes them go into anaphylactic shock. Like that's how they react to it.
Like it's more scientific instead of supernatural, I guess.
So at this point, there's just like, I don't know, this is just very small, but I love when I love this kind of shit in movies. Whistler hands, I was about to call him Wesley Snipes. He hands Blade a giant gun, and Blade goes, it's so heavy. And Whistler looks at him and goes, you're so big. And I just loved that interaction between them because they clearly have a relationship and we kind of figure that out as the movie goes, but you can see it right off the hop that these guys have known each other a long time and there's definitely some love between them.
So Whistler gives Karen some vampire mace, which is made up of garlic extract and silver nitrate. He also tells her to buy a gun. This part is fucking wild. And if she starts to get sensitive to sunlight, if she starts getting thirsty, no matter how much she drinks, then she should use the gun on herself. Like, holy shit.
So dark.
he's watching her out of the corner of his eye. I think it's so funny. They're on a bridge. The sunlight is kind of coming in and out on her face, and he's just like side eyeing her, seeing how she reacts to the sunlight, but
Mhm.
she's fine. And now we
Mhm.
see
Mhm.
Dragonetti going to find Deacon, who is running something that looks like Microsoft Paint, but it's running different variations of these ancient hieroglyphics, which I think in this movie they
Mhm.
made and they called them vampire glyphs specifically. And he's trying to run this program to
Mm,
decipher them.
that's cute.
Dragonetti tells him there's no point. This is a dead
Mhm.
language. Frost is, of course, a smartass. Dragonetti ends up slapping him, asking him what he's up to. Dragonetti, by the
Mhm.
way, he got some big ass eyes. Like he will stare through your soul. Okay.
Huge. Oh,
And
yeah, they're
Deacon
bigger than
says,
mine, for sure.
Deacon says, "What are you gonna do, Dragonetti?" In a threatening way. Dragonetti just ends up leaving.
Can I ask you a question?
Hmm.
When Deacon is, like, touching Dragonetti's face, like, it just seemed like there was a little bit of, like, I don't know what that was. I guess because 'cause they're vampires, and vampires have this, like, weird sexual sort of tension amongst each other.
Always.
Did you notice that?
I didn't catch it here. I'm more focused on the scene we're gonna get to later. That
'Kay.
you
Mhm.
know what I'm talking about. You know what scene I'm talking about. That was like juiced to the gills with
Oh, I
sexual
was
tension.
texting you? Wait, the one that I was texting you and I was losing
Yes.
my fucking mind? I think I texted you 5 times. I was like, "No, dude, this is uncomfortable. What is happening here?"
Yeah.
Ah." Okay, sorry, getting back to it. So, Blade's gonna drop off Karen at her building, okay? And it's all very like, "Well, now you can take care of yourself." And it's very weird. But she goes into her building, she gets into the elevator, and she notices 2 people in the elevator that have hieroglyphic tattoos on the back of their neck. She's like, "Well, that's a little bit weird." And they're being sus. Like, they're looking at her weird. At one point, she turns around and looks at them, and the one guy's just like, "Hey, how are you doing?" or something. And it's just all very weird, and I wouldn't wanna be in the elevator with them either. So she gets off on her floor, and she notices that they're following her. And so she starts walking even faster, boom, 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 boom. And as she's about to get to her door, she stops, turns around, and she's ready to spray them with the mace, but they have gone into another apartment or room, or she's in a very interesting building. I don't know. It seems like it's a combination of apartments and offices. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting
Mhm.
vibe. But she eventually goes into her apartment, and can I just tell you, her apartment is so nice. Like, it's so beautiful. She's decorated it beautiful, and it just has such a great vibe, and she's kinda walking around, and then all of a sudden, a policeman walks into her apartment, and this is Officer Keeger.
Yeah, he says, "Oh, your door was open. I just came to check on you because, they said you got kidnapped at the hospital last night." That's a great excuse, honestly.
Mhm,
So he's like, "No
mhm.
problem, no problem." She asks what happened to Curtis. He tells her that Curtis died, but don't worry about that right now. And of course, she's like, "What? What do you mean?" And he says, "Because you're dead too." And then she sprays him with the vampire mace because he's about to attack her. And he's like, "What
Mhm.
is this, garlic?" And she's like, "Yeah, they told me it would work on vampires." And he says, "Who said I was a vampire?" Blade shows up right behind him and says, "Nobody," and then just starts beating the shit out of him.
And, like, trashing her apartment, just like
Oh my gosh. The whole time I was like, "Why are you destroying her apartment?" And she does eventually call it
like,
out. She's
"Can
like,
you?"
"Is all this necessary?"
Yeah, like, "Can you just throw him out the window or something? Like, why are you breaking my beautiful glass coffee table?"
Yes, like I really worked hard decorating this place. I love when someone knows interior design because I do not. But he
No, I
tells
know.
her,
I would be upset. I put a lot of work into my house.
right. Blade tells her that this officer is a familiar. Okay. And he sees the symbol on his
Right.
neck, and it means that he's owned by a vampire. And he learns that, or he realizes that it's Deacon's symbol. So this cop is owned by Deacon Frost. Now, outside in his trunk, in the cop's trunk, he has a bunch of blood from like a blood bank or something, and they're trying to figure out where he's taking it, but he doesn't want to tell them.
Mhm.
Blade pulls out the biggest gun, like a
Right.
biggest handheld gun that's not like, I don't know, a machine gun or like a shotgun that I've ever seen. He's in the middle of broad daylight in the street, like people are walking down the street. He pulls out this gigantic gun. The cop does end up running and getting away. And Blade doesn't fire into the crowd because I'm thinking, oh,
Mhm.
he doesn't want to shoot humans in the crossfire, right? even though Blade sometimes really doesn't seem like he gives a shit about people necessarily, but he does also save them. It's interesting.
Mhm.
Ironically, he tells
Mhm.
Karen, he
Mhm.
starts using this as a metaphor, telling her how she needs to learn how to pull the trigger. I'm like, but you literally just did not pull the trigger. But anyway, he tells Karen that she's useless and she wants to come with
Right.
him. And she wants to try
Mhm.
to find a cure. And he tells her there is no cure.
It's interesting because I feel like Blade understands the stakes are really high and he doesn't want to have compassion for another human like that. You know, outside of I think his what is the dude's name? Christopherson?
Whistler.
Abraham? Yeah, Abraham Whistler, like I think that's the closest relationship Blade wants to have. So it makes sense to me that he's very kind of standoffish with Karen, even though it's obvious he's got a little bit of a soft spot for her even now.
So now they're out looking for this cop the next day or the next night. And Karen is saying, he's not stupid enough to come back here. Yes, he is. They do a little chase scene, okay? This is the chase scene that made me go, oh, this looks like a comic book, which I can totally see
Mhm.
that being pulled from Batman. And yes, looking like
Yeah,
Gotham. And even the dialogue from
absolutely.
the police officer sounds like a comic book strip dialogue.
Mhm.
Vampires, by the way, are eating people on the street. Blade points out some vampires on the corner. He's telling
Mhm.
Karen, like, that's a vampire, that's a vampire. You can tell by the way they move, by the way they smell, which I don't think Karen has
They
that
smell.
ability, but Blade does.
Yeah, it's interesting that he can smell them, and he also tells her that crosses and holy water don't do anything, and he
Mm,
reiterates that silver stake and sunlight. That's how you kill a vampire, and he hands her a gun with silver and garlic bullets, and he
yeah.
asks her if she knows how to use it, and she goes, "Nope, but I'll learn fast." "You sure will. You sure will, girl. You really will," because she learns really fucking fast. And but they're heading to Deacon's nightclub. That's where they're gonna end up. That's where they follow Keeger to.
Yeah, and this one is like a karaoke bar. There's these girls that are like in the, I guess, typical like schoolgirl uniform type thing dancing on stage. They kind of sound like the Beastie Boys here for some reason, their cadence. And Blade gets into the nightclub by
Yeah.
literally like blasting the guard through the door, okay? He starts doing his thing, meaning beating the fuck out of everyone. Like literally everyone. So he gets to the cop in the kitchen. I just called him the cop throughout my notes. He gets to the cop in the kitchen. Finally, Blade gets it out of him that the doorway that he's looking for to this vampire lair is through the walk-in freezer. And Blade says, "Give Frost a message from me.
Mhm.
It's open season on all suckheads." And I did not know what the hell he said. I had to rewind it. I thought he said suck eggs. And I was like, okay, Terry Funk, like
So
what?
did
Hold
I.
on. But he says suckheads. He throws the cop down.
Yeah.
He enters this hidden doorway with Karen. She also happens to have on this black leather coat. It's just a shorter version, but they look like a great tag team here.
Oh, they do. Absolutely. Yes. Yep. They do. They do. Oh, and this is kind of where Blade sort of runs down to her how involved the vampires are in society and that they're into politics, real estate, they own half of downtown. Like they're very intertwined with our world. And I would imagine have a lot of power and they've paid off a lot of cops too. So, humans are kind of at their mercy.
Yeah. And there's also a party going on right now over at Frost's place, but Frost is in his empty bedroom that looks so futuristic. It's like all white. It looks like clinical almost. And there's a giant chamber
Sterile.
where his bed would be. Sterile is a great way to put it. And he is busy focusing on his like Windows 98 that's trying to translate these vampire glyphs and it's complete. So he's very excited. And at that
Mhm.
very moment, a chamber opens and a woman gets out of the bed and she tells him, "Don't keep everyone waiting." But we don't see who it is yet, right?
We do. We kind of do, but the
Okay.
reveal isn't there yet, so we haven't pieced that together yet. Also, that high tech thing is supposed to be a coffin. It's like a high tech coffin.
Oh, yes. So now out at the party,
Yeah.
the police officer is trying to talk to Frost, trying to tell him what happened. Frost doesn't want to hear it. Quinn is there. He is alive, by the
hmm
way, but he looks a little rough. He looks like he was literally put back together, and or is regenerating. So he almost looks like Bride of Chucky, like he's being sewn back together a little bit. And finally, The cop does tell
Mhm.
Frost what happened, and Frost bites him, throws him in the pool, killing him. And then Mercury, aka Pixie Cut Girl, who now has that spiky blonde hairstyle from the late 90s, early 2000s, starts making out with him in blood,
Mhm.
which I felt like you were going to feel a certain type of
Dude,
way
I
about.
thought it was so Dude, dude, I was like, "Yo, this is so Give it to me, baby." I
Oh,
just dropped a bunch of my Freds. They just fell. My
oh no,
excitement.
not the
No, I
Freds.
thought it was so hot. Ugh, I
Yeah.
loved it. Mm,
And then
'kay.
Frost is telling Quinn he wants Blade and he wants him alive. Now, back in the record keeping area, they find the record keeper, Pearl. And I did not know how to perceive Pearl at first.
Oh, I thought Pearl was a girl for a while, but then when I started doing research on Pearl, I found out Pearl is not. Pearl is a boy, and I'm gonna describe what Pearl looks like, okay? Pearl is almost like a ginormous blob of a creature, almost like Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
He also he also resembles a character on Buffy that was on an episode of Buffy. He looked just like this, and I feel like that they had to have either got inspiration. I would imagine Buffy got inspiration from Blade for this. But he's this big blob of like skin, and he's like looks really sweaty. He almost looks like a fucking huge baby. Like he has no hair. He's rotten looking and he smells foul. Like when they walk in, they are like, ew, what the actual fuck is that smell? And in real life, Pearl was so large, okay, they had to build a set around him. It was about 700 pounds of latex skin that had to move around on a forklift to get him to where he needed to go. And they needed 4 people to operate him, one for the head, the arms, and the legs, okay? He also apparently is that size because Pearl's obese size was the creature gaining a cannibalistic lust for infants and children as he loves to eat their hearts. So I didn't feel so bad for what happens to Pearl here. At first I felt terrible for Pearl. I went, man, that sucks. But then I found out this guy eats babies and shit. I'm like, okay. Lust for infants? There's a fucking line. Okay, goodbye, kill him.
Yeah, Pearl is, I don't even understand how someone can wear that much latex, but I know it wasn't all on him. It's a lot of it is on the side of him, right? But Pearl as a character is completely immobile, surrounded by computers, trying to decipher shit for Deacon Frost, okay? Played by Eric Edwards,
Mhm,
who did a great job uh, being
mhm,
Pearl, yeah. And people have a lot of questions about Pearl. You just answered a lot of them. Another one
mhm,
is a lot of people want to know how could a vampire become obese, which I understand. You know, usually in vampire lore, vampires are very gaunt, right? How do you become obese on a diet
mhm.
of blood? However, I mean, there are a lot of possibilities here, right? Like maybe Pearl was already in this state and then was turned. Um, but even just eating
I
baby hearts, I don't know.
I think this is my guess because the vampires in this world age. This is not like the vampire lore of like Dracula. Like these vampires age. So I wonder, especially if he's eating. So he's saying a cannibalistic lust for infants. So that means he's eating babies that are like vampires and humans. And it sounds like he's eating the whole baby. That's why he's so fat. He's
Oh,
not just drinking blood. Okay, this is a really fucked up conversation, but in the context of fucking Blade, that is why Pearl is so large,
okay.
apparently.
Yeah. And
Looking
also
rough.
Pearl is
He's rough.
farting the whole time, by the way. That's also why Pearl
Disgusting.
smells horrible.
Doesn't it looks to me like a chronic it looks like they're trying to portray someone that's chronically online that drinks Mountain Dew. Like that's the way with the computers all around him. Am I wrong? Like isn't that the vibe?
Honestly, Pearl reminded me of a South Park episode that is basically what you just described, but South Park came out way after that. But yes, I'm sure there are a lot of captions you could use for a screenshot of Pearl. But Pearl is highly intelligent, however, a huge coward, okay? I mean, Pearl also can't move, so I understand why he's like freaking
Right.
out. He's on
Mhm.
like not FaceTime. I felt like he was on FaceTime with Frost, but he's not. But he's on the phone with Frost. So Pearl starts screaming, he's gonna kill me, he's gonna kill me, you need me, Frost, like
Mm-hmm.
basically save me. And Frost straight up says, sorry, Pearl, your history, just die with some dignity,
Yeah.
okay? I'm like, poor Pearl, but also not poor Pearl, fuck Pearl. So Blade hangs up on Frost. Karen is holding a UV light up to
I'm
Pearl.
not gonna lie. Dude, I'm not gonna lie. When he said that, I was like, I like this guy even more. He's such an asshole.
Karen is holding this UV
Anyways,
light up,
yes, the UV
but it's
lights.
not on yet.
Mm-hmm.
And Blade starts asking Pearl
Mm-hmm.
questions. And if Pearl doesn't answer, Karen is going to shine the light on him, frying him. And Pearl's playing dumb. So Blade asks about these images, the vampire glyphs on the computer. What does this mean? And Pearl at one point says, oh, that's just a video game. And Karen starts frying him. Pearl starts telling Blade in the vampire language, La Magra is coming. The spirits of the 12 will awaken the blood god. And here's where I have the note that it was a linguistics professor from UCLA named Victoria Fromkin that was hired to design this entirely new language for that first Blade movie. Isn't that so crazy? And
That's
so
wild. Wow.
sadly, she did pass away 18 months after Blade 1, and all of her notes for that language were lost before Blade 2 was made.
That's so sad. What a bummer. Wow. What a contribution though. To
Yeah.
like come
To
up with
make a
a whole
whole new
language.
language,
That's
like
wild.
what?
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Yeah, it's so cool.
So then Blade tells Karen if Pearl moves, fry him. And he goes and starts setting up this bomb that's going to blow off the vault, the door of this vault. I mean, I was thinking, okay, Pearl can't really move though. So how is he going to move? But as soon as he realizes that Blade is going to blow that door up, Pearl starts screaming, no. And then Karen fries him, like to the point where Pearl is now dead, I believe. And Blade looks at her like,
Looks
damn,
dead.
girl. And Karen says he moved, which I was thinking technically him screaming no was moving, but he didn't really move. Like he can't really go anywhere.
Oh, she just wanted to kill him. Look at him. He's like, I mean, I kind of felt bad for him at first until I read about him eating babies. And I was like, oh, fucking fry his ass.
Yeah.
Like, because at first he's just, he's just doing Deacon's bidding by like, trying to figure out these scrolls or whatever. But then you're like, oh, well, he deserved to get fried. Okay. So they go into this vault, right? The bomb goes off. They go into this vault. And this is where the vampires hide their like Dead Sea Scrolls. Do you know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
is like where they find it's like basically their history, and everything's in these big beautiful glass like cases, and it's like big long scrolls that I guess they DIY'd for really cheap. But these big scrolls, and Blade is kind of looking at everything, and he's kind of talking a little bit about Lamarga, who is this vampire god. Okay, it's one of their legends. But he notices someone in the room with them. Okay, so he notices like there's somebody running around the room, and it's a little girl. Okay, and this little girl looks super cute at first, but then Quinn and his cronies show up, and this was all like a setup, right? She looks cute and innocent, but let me tell you, this girl can kick some fucking ass. Her name is Ebony Adams. It's her real name, and she's a national competitor. And she was trained under Billy Blanks, who was the inventor of Tybo.
Oh my gosh,
And
Tybo.
Wesley Snipes specifically asked for her. Yes, dude. We used to do that in gym class. She is such a badass, and she starts beating his ass. I mean, Blade ends up obviously getting the upper hand here, but she gives him a run for his money here. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, she's literally kicking him, just like all kicks repeatedly until he eventually punches her, which I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to do what he has to do. It doesn't matter
He
if
looks
it's,
annoyed, eh? Like he looks
yeah,
mildly annoyed.
he
Yeah.
is. He's annoyed by
Yeah.
it. Also, the
Yeah,
pages that are
exactly.
in this room, they're Blade
Yeah.
tells Karen it's essentially the vampire Bible, aka the Book of Erebus. And he
Right.
starts fighting all of Quinn's
Right. What did I call them? The
cronies.
Dead Sea Scrolls?
That makes sense to me though. That's essentially kind of
Uh-huh.
what it is, but their version. So one of Quinn's guys grabs Blade's sword, which we already know what that does. I was waiting for the payoff on
Mm-hmm.
this. It blows his fucking hand off because he doesn't know the right buttons to press or whatever. Quinn
Mhm.
starts punching Blade in the stomach, which doesn't do anything. Blade just completely no-sells it. But then Quinn starts punching him in the face. He ends up stabbing Blade
Mhm.
in the shoulder with one of his silver stakes, which remember doesn't kill Blade. He's not affected by silver like the vampires are. And then Blade starts laughing. And
Mhm.
Quinn's like, "What's so funny?" And Blade tells him, "I'm expecting company." And we see that he's wearing an earpiece.
And our boy Whistler shows up with a machine gun to save the motherfucking day, okay, man? He is in there, he's shooting up the place. The vamps are scattering, right? Quinn is freaking out. He tells the vamps, we need to get Blade alive. So Blade, Karen, Whistler, they run to the subway. By the way, the subway we see go by, it's special effects, but inside of it is a bunch of cardboard cutouts of people. They are not real people. All of a sudden, they're kind of like, okay, imagine this. I don't know if you guys have been on the subway before, but you can like stand up against the back of this where the train goes, and it's very unsafe because you're right off the tracks. Okay, but that's kind of where they are. They're hiding they're hiding against the wall where the train is gonna come by, and as that happens, it straight up looks like Whistler gets sucked into the subway. Okay, apparently he doesn't because he just shows up later, like nothing happened. But I was very confused. And I remember Blade says something like, "Oh, he can handle himself," and I was like, "Can he? Because he just looks like he got hit by a fucking subway." But okay. So then, Blade and Karen, they kind of make it to like they're past the trains and now they're kind of on a set of tracks. Karen almost hits the like these are different things on the tracks and one of them is right? Electric. What am I trying to say? It can fry you, okay? She almost touches it, but she doesn't. Okay. Then Karen also almost gets ran over by a train. I mean, she's having a hard day. Blade and Quinn start fighting. Blade takes Quinn's face, and as the train's going by, he like pie faces him against the train. So the train is just smushing his face basically and just like fucking him all up, right? Kind of like sticks his head into it. This obviously freaks Quinn out to the point that he runs off. Okay, but more vampires are coming, and just as the vampires are about to grab them, Blade hops onto the back of the subway and pulls them down away from the vampires, and that is how they get away. It's fucking crazy. Okay, like it's bananas.
Yeah, that shit would have ripped my arm clean off my body if I would have tried to do that shit. It was crazy. And it actually does dislocate Blade's shoulder. So on the train, Karen ends up putting his shoulder back in just like he did for her earlier. And then Blade has to inject himself in the neck with that serum. So obviously he's feeling some bloodlust. And Karen realizes, or I guess gets confirmation in this moment, and she says, "You're one of them, aren't you?" And he tells her, "No, I'm something else." Like, are you a human, a vampire, or a third, more mysterious thing? Blade is the third, more mysterious thing. So Karen finds out from Whistler that Whistler found Blade when he was 13 years old. He almost killed him because he thought he was a vampire. And then we get confirmation here that that was Blade's mother in the beginning, the opening scene. She was bitten while she was pregnant, and now Blade has vampire strength, but he can withstand garlic, silver, and sunlight. However, he ages like a human because, like you already mentioned, the vampires don't age. Or I'm sorry, they do age in this world, but they age slower. However, Blade also inherited their thirst, unfortunately, and the serum's supposed to suppress that, but his body is rejecting it, and they haven't been able to find a cure. So Karen asks why Whistler is hunting vampires. Like, what's his motive? And he basically tells her that a vampire killed his wife and two daughters. And then he tells her something big is happening in the vampire world, and he will bet that Deacon Frost is at the center of it.
Freaking so sad. And I want to say Blade was homeless too when he found him at 13,
Mm-hmm.
which is just so sad. In the comic books, he's from the UK, not America, and I believe he was born in 1929. So Karen goes in to check on Blade, who is brooding by himself in the dark. We love a sad boy. She tells him she knows his lore. He tells her that she don't know shit about him. Okay. He ain't human, basically, is what he's saying. And he's ashamed of who he is and what he's done. And it's heartbreaking, right? It's like you can feel that off of him, or you can feel that energy off of him, and it's sad. And she encourages him to sort of let some shit go. Cause like, it's time, my friend. Gotta let it go. Move forward. Okay. And he's been hunting Frost for his entire life, okay? Because Frost is the one that killed his mother, okay? So he's been hunting for him his whole life. And he tells her that he feels a little bit of satisfaction every time he kills one of them. So basically, just back the fuck off. Okay. So one thing I do want to note about this, Wesley Snipes did not like that they wanted him to sort of be angry in the scene. He didn't feel like that was it just he said watching it back, he doesn't feel like Blade should have been like angry because she's not coming at him. But I guess he's guarded. I don't know, just something Wesley Snipes had noted that he just didn't like that approach to the scene.
Mhm.
But we're gonna cut to Frost, Quinn, and Mercury. Quinn is losing it because he lost another hand. And Frost tells him to calm the fuck down. I just have to say, I love their dynamic. Frost tells Quinn that he needs him. He's like, I need you, man. But the tension is so high. Like, you don't believe a word that comes out of Frost's mouth ever. He's just like a raging narcissist. You know what I mean? Like, he has that sort of
Yeah.
ooh, sociopath, right? Maybe not narcissist. I think sociopath is better. So then Frost and Mercury are making out again, which I loved. Okay. And then she starts rubbing something on his face, and we find out, oh, it's sunscreen. I know it's so funny. My mom looked at me and she goes, is she putting sunscreen on his face? And I went, damn, yes, I think he is. I think he is.
My esthetician will be very happy about that. Like, yes, get your SPF on, guy.
That's right.
But this younger group of vampires has kidnapped and are dragging Dragonetti out to the beach at sunrise. And they're okay for now. I love this idea that vampires can go out in the sun if they have SPF on, but it's not like a foolproof thing. So later they're
Mhm.
gonna have like helmets on too that kind of block the rest of the sun, maybe as like a
Yeah.
backup, because
Yeah.
Dragonetti is starting to smoke under his collar a little bit. And Frost is like, oh right, you were born a vampire, so you never got to experience a sunrise. He's such a little dick. And then Dragonetti tells him, you can do whatever you want. It's not going to make a difference. You're never going to be a pureblood. They hold him down, and Frost rips his fangs out with fucking pliers. And then they leave him there to burn. I actually felt bad for him in this scene because his death was crazy.
Dude, I did too. I felt bad too. And not only that, one thing that I love about Steven Dorff is like his the way that he sells every single time one of the main blood like the real vampires, the ones that were born vampires, anytime, especially Dragnetti, when he mentions to Frost that he is not a pureblood, and he never will be, like Deacon always takes a second and you see the look in his eyes. Like
Mhm.
that is his Achilles heel. That is what makes him feel less than. That is what he feels shame about. And Dragonetti knows it. And right before he fucking dies, he just sticks it to Deacon one more time. And I loved it. And then yeah, he goes up in flames. It's fucking crazy. That death scene is insane.
It is. And in the comics, Deacon Frost was a chemist. So maybe in this world, he's even making that sunscreen for the vampires to use.
Okay, the lore on some of these characters in the comic books is pretty crazy. I can talk about it a little bit in the extended for
Yes.
sure. But Deacon, being the badass that he is, hops on the motorcycle with Mercury. I'm sorry, but they looked so cool together. And then they head back to the council, and Frost takes Dragonetti's head or fangs, sorry, and throws them onto the fucking table and tells them he needs 12 volunteers, like the boardroom table. I need 12 volunteers.
Honestly, this is terrifying to me
Whoa.
because you have this insane person who is trying to
Yeah.
take over your world, literally the world, right?
Hmm.
Um, and he's actually trying to do it. And I just associate that with real life things, and it is fucking terrifying. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Hmm.
Blade, meanwhile, is bringing a page from the Book of Erebus to Whistler, who says it smells like a vampire wiped his ass with it. It's
Yep.
written in blood.
Hmm.
By the way, Erebus is a haunted house in the Metro Detroit area. We should go this Halloween.
Ooh. Okay.
And Karen has been in the lab trying to work on something. She's using coagulants on vampire blood. She tells Blade to step back, but he looks through the microscope anyway. It explodes, and he's like, what kind of cure is this? And she says, I wasn't making a cure. I want you to
Hmm.
use this as a weapon on vampires.
Hmm.
Whistler, at this point, we hear is coughing a lot, and Blade tells Karen he has cancer. And she notices, you have a deep love for Whistler. And Blade is very just straight faced about this. And he says, we have a good arrangement. He makes the weapons and I use them. Like, Blade, just admit you love Whistler, okay?
Yeah, and she tells him this little thing, and she says that her mother used to say a cold heart is a dead heart, and I thought she's trying to help him emotionally grow.
Yeah.
I just love Karen.
And so later, Karen is checking her wounds on her neck, which she has these two little like circular band-aids over, just like perfectly. And Whistler notices this, that she doesn't look good. And he tells her, it looks like we didn't catch it in time. And you might have 1 day left. Like, what the fuck? Just drop
Yeah.
that bomb on someone. But I mean, she needs to know, right? And
Mhm.
at this point, we see Blade walking through the city and he gets like a flash of Frost almost like in his mind. Was this
Mhm.
like not mind control cuz Deacon is not controlling Blade, but it's almost like he was in his head, right?
Yeah, I think he sensed him. I think they can probably there's probably some telepathic energy that happens between the vampires, I'm sure, something like
Yeah.
that. Mhm.
And then he looks across the street and he sees Frost there holding hands with this little girl. He's holding this little girl hostage so Blade doesn't attack him. They're actually
Mhm.
meeting here for the very first time. Frost is like, "Oh my gosh, I've heard so much about the Daywalker. I'm finally getting to see you." And Blade notices he's wearing that sunblock because it is daylight. And Blade tells him, "It looks like your mascara's running."
Oh my god. Okay, also, Deacon refers to humans as cattle, and he compares vampires to natural selection.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that Deacon has a hate for humans.
Oh
Like he
yeah.
does
And
not like humans.
the dialogue here was pretty wild. So at first, Frost is like, it's a start to wear the sunblock, but the goal is to be like you. And he's trying to convince Blade to join them. And
Mhm.
Blade is like, yeah, I don't see it like that. Blade has empathy for the humans. And Frost says, spare me the Uncle Tom routine, which I didn't even catch the first time I watched this. That is wild. He's using this term to refer to Blade defending humans instead of siding with the vampires, as opposed to it being about race. But I was like, wait, what? What did he
I did
just
the
say?
same thing. My mom and me did the same thing because I didn't catch it the first time either. My mom turned to look, we both looked at each other and I was like, holy shit. Deacon he's crazy. Like he's out of his fucking
Yeah.
mind.
But
Evil.
Blade starts speaking the vampire language and he repeats what Pearl said earlier. The spirits of the 12 will awaken La Magra, the blood glot.
Mhm.
But I said blood glot. There's too many L's. The blood god. Blade reaches for his gun. Frost lifts this little girl up by her chin. And then
Rude.
Blade says, what do I care? They're nothing but cattle, like you said, where I was like, see, this is kind of the Blade that I expect. But he was also, I think, putting on a little bit of a front here,
Oh, a
right?
million percent. He was goading him big time. Big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then Frost says, when I'm done with you, you will wish they never cut you from your mother's womb. And of course, this is when Blade is like, all right, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And this is where Frost, like I mentioned earlier, dodges the bullets. I want to say Matrix style, but I feel like that's not giving respect to Blade because it technically aired here first, right? If anything,
Mhm.
Matrix was doing the Blade style, right?
Mhm. 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 Yeah.
Simultaneously, Frost launches that girl in the street, then runs the other way. So, like a little decoy. Blade, of course, ends up saving the girl.
Okay, but can I just say to you, AK, there's no way that little girl was launched across the park, across a road, into the street. She doesn't even have fucking brush burn on her. I thought she was dead. I thought she was dead. I was like, there's no way this tiny child just survived a vampire launching her into fucking, into the street. That was crazy. But yeah, he does. He saves her. Isn't that so nice? Uh, we come back to Karen and Whistler who are at the lair, and she's working on a cure, right? She tests this on herself, but she's not sure if it's going to work on Blade, right? But she thinks it'll probably work on her. She says the vamp shit is part of his DNA, basically. So curing that would be very difficult because for her it's a virus or like because they kind of earlier in the movie, Dragnetti, I believe, refers to Deacon being infected with a sexually transmitted disease. I want to say it's Dragnetti that says that. Someone says that. So basically what she's saying is for her she was bitten so she has like venom or whatever in her, right? I'm just using venom as but you get it.
Yeah.
And so she thinks I could make a cure because I could get this out of my body. But the difference between her and Blade is it's in Blade's DNA. It's going to be very hard for her to get a cure for that. So that's basically it. But she does think that she might be able to control his thirst a little bit better than what he has right now.
Yeah. And Karen really has nothing to lose at this point. The fact that she's
No.
just injecting herself with a random test is pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So they start hearing laughter in the lair throughout the whole place, and Whistler tells Karen to run. It's Frost and a bunch of the vampires. They end up beating up Whistler here, and Whistler is on the ground. They're like kicking him. Frost is kicking him. And Whistler says, just bite me and get it over with. Frost says, I ain't gonna bite you, and then stomps his fucking head in and spits on him.
That's
I
crazy.
was like, what the fuck? Like, it's so brutal. And then meanwhile, Mercury grabs Karen, so she's watching all this happen. I did not want Whistler to go out like that, but we will see. I have more information about that later as well, in addition to what actually happens in the movie. But Blade gets back. There's a sheet covered in blood propped up on a chair, and a VHS is next to it saying "Play Me," which was very Saw. I felt like once again this came out
Mhm.
before Saw, but uh, he removes the sheet. It's Whistler. He's actually alive. That shocked me too because I thought for sure Frost
He
killed him
looks
right there.
dead.
But he's
Dude,
barely alive.
he looks so dead. He looks dead to the point that I guess Wesley Snipes couldn't keep a straight face during the scene because eventually he's gonna try to help Whistler like with some gauze and he's like wiping the blood off Whistler's like face and shit and neck.
Mhm.
And Wesley Snipes couldn't keep a straight face because he kept he kept laughing because he felt like wiping blood off Whistler with a piece of gauze made absolutely no sense because clearly that wasn't going to help him because he's fucking dying and he couldn't stop laughing.
Like, "Oh, I'm sorry, your organs are all failing, your brain was just stomped in, but let me get this little bit of, let me get, like, this tiny inch of blood off your cheek when you're literally covered in it."
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I put in capital letters, this man is alive with a whole bunch of question marks. But so Whistler tells Blade that Frost took Karen and that he decoded the disc and explains that Frost is trying to trigger basically a vampire apocalypse. He's trying to bring forth this god and he's trying to basically start create an
Yes,
apocalypse.
and they need Blade's blood in particular. They need the blood of the Daywalker for this to even happen. So Whistler
Mhm.
tells him, "You cannot let Frost get his hands on you. Don't even go after Karen because if he does, there's gonna be a fucking army of these vampires."
Yeah,
And
he's
then
the
he tells
chosen
Blade
one.
that Blade needs to finish him off. And
Mhm.
then tells Blade to give him his gun. And he doesn't want to. Eventually, reluctantly, Blade does. And then
Mhm.
Whistler tells Blade, "Walk away, you stupid son of a bitch." Like their relationship dynamic is just that's just how it is.
Yeah. Well,
And
they're both don't know how to they're both emotionally fucking stunted.
yes,
They're like
yes,
emotionally constipated. Neither one of them knows how to express themselves and this is how they do by like get out of here you son of a bitch. Give me your gun so I can end my own life. Like it's just
right.
like Jesus, man. Like it's so sad. It's
And
this
it's so
this is
dark.
such a sad scene, man. It's so fucking sad.
Yeah. And Blade eventually does give him the gun. He walks away. He doesn't want to, but he does. And then Blade just has no expression. He just walks away, just very seriously. We hear a gunshot, and then we see Whistler's hand fall with the gun falling out of it,
So
which is
sad.
interesting. Keep that in mind when at the end of this episode we talk about Blade 2, okay? Just a little bit.
Mhm. Mhm.
So now we cut to Blade watching the tape, and we see they have Karen. Frost is telling Blade where to find them. And now we cut to Blade doing some little DIY work. Okay, he's making silver bullets. He's stocking some of Karen's concoctions that we know explode vampire blood.
Mhm.
And he goes to his altar, which they only showed momentarily when Karen was looking around the place. He's like praying, but then he just smashes all of it. So I think he's just like, this is his moment where
I
he's
thought he
just
was meditating.
either meditating or praying, but then he destroys it. So I think, Whistler dying here was
Yeah.
just like the
Yeah.
end of it for him.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
now
Yeah.
back at the vampire lair, Karen is sitting between Frost and Mercury, who of course I wrote pixie cut. Frost is being a dick per usual, and Karen says, "Is this where you offer to turn me?" And he says either that or a body bag, and she taunts him here, and she says, "Go ahead, bite me." I thought when I didn't know what Karen's concoction was, I thought
Mhm.
she was gonna lure him to bite her because whatever she injected herself with was gonna kill him. And I was like, that would be pretty
Mm.
fucking cool if you injected yourself with something knowing if a vampire bites you, they die. But that's not
Oh, that's
exactly what's
a
happening.
no, but there was a storyline like that on the Vampire Diaries.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
But no, she says, I'm just gonna cure myself. And he thinks that's funny because there is
Mhm.
no cure. And she kind of taunts him here about being bitten. She's like, there is a cure for
Mhm.
you. Like you can be cured because I can see that you were bitten. You weren't born a vampire. And he does not like
Mhm.
that. He's pissed off. Now, security can detect that there's someone there because, of course, it's Blade on his motorcycle killing a
Mhm.
slew of armed men.
Quinn is explaining to Deacon how dangerous Blade is, right? And the conversation between them is just so fucking funny. Deacon full on mocks Quinn about Blade's sword. Like he's just like, "Yo, yeah, what is all his big swords? He's got big sword." Like it's so the way that they interact, it's like they're cousins. They come
Yeah.
across as like cousins or almost like Shaun and Ed from Shaun of the Dead. My mom
Yes.
compared Quinn to Dennis Hopper from Apocalypse Now. I haven't seen that movie in a few years, so I can't off the top of my head recall who she like what she's talking about, but she kept saying that Quinn reminds her of Dennis Hopper from that movie. So now I have to go and rewatch Apocalypse Now, even though I don't like that movie because they kill the cow and that just fucks me right up. But any hoogly boos, the fact that he hasn't killed Quinn, it makes me just wonder about the relationship, right?
Right.
So as this is all happening in the headset, the cronies are telling Deacon that there's an intruder, and obviously, this is Blade with guns ablazing. Man, he is shooting everyone, and Deacon can hear the gunfire through the headset, and he just keeps yelling like, "You can't kill him! Do not kill him, please! Do not kill him!" One vampire, no, it's actually the guy. One guy like bumps into Blade, and he's like, "Please don't shoot me! Please don't shoot me!" Obviously, Blade shoots him, and as he does, he has a vision of pulling the sheet off of Whistler. Okay. Trauma, hello. This is fucking revenge, baby. Like all that pain and shit is going into those bullets, you know what I mean? Blade straight up looks like the Terminator in this scene, like straight up, like he looks like there's one shot where I'm like, holy shit, he's the fucking Terminator, man. Deacon locks the place down. Okay. So now they're all locked in this nightclub-esque area. That's Deacon's.
Yes, at one point, Blade encounters two people in the hallway. They start brawling. He injects them with Karen's serum, and holy shit, they turn red. Their heads swell up huge and explode.
It's
There was
so
a
cool, man.
there
It's
was a
so fucking
commercial like
cool.
that that I think was also in the 90s. Was it like Fruitopia or something where their heads would turn into fruit? Maybe that
I
was just a
forgot about
US
that.
thing.
Was it Snapple? I feel like there was yeah, I do remember it.
Maybe
Mhm.
something like that. Uh,
Mhm.
Blade gets into that bedroom, Frost's very clean, sterile looking bedroom. The bed or the coffin chamber opens up again. And here's where I realized for the first time this is Blade's mother. It's Vanessa. Also,
Yo.
Blade's name is Eric.
Yeah. Eric, yes. Oh, I
Yeah.
have a whole bunch of his background because I got a little bit crazy with the comics. I was like,
Hell yeah.
"Holy shit." Yo, it's his mother. It's Blade's mother. He is fucking his mother. That's
Oh,
crazy.
I was like, wait, what? You're
Deacon.
talking about Frost. Okay. I was like,
Deacon,
wait.
man. Deacon is like that is insanity. That's insanity. Blade takes his glasses off right away. Like he knows right away. He realizes right away that that is his
Yeah.
mother. And it's so gross. She tells him to come back like with Deacon that he's like, Deacon welcomed her into his arms and blah 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 bullshit. Deacon comes up and fucking tases Blade. Of course. Of course it's a setup, right?
Right.
It's so gross. She walks over and kisses Deacon on the cheek. It's so like the whole fucking ew. They're
Yeah, it
gross.
just makes me it was making me feel so many different things because not
Yeah.
only is Frost banging his mom, he thought his mom was dead this whole time. He's been avenging his mother this whole time. Meanwhile, she's one of them. Like the
Dude.
level of trauma and
Oh,
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
dude. No wonder he has a hard time expressing his feelings. Jesus.
Right.
He passes out. He passes out, right? He's out.
Yeah.
And when he wakes up, he's in the back of a truck, and Karen is also, or maybe it's a van, and Karen's also there, right? She tells him that if he takes the cure, he will be completely human and he'll lose all of his vampire powers.
Which
And he kind of just
also,
like,
I
yeah.
was like, how do you know that, Karen? You know what I mean? Like,
Listen,
you haven't
there's a
tested
lot of
this.
things. There's a lot of things that Karen and other characters do in this film where I'm like, how is that possible?
Sure,
It's a comic.
sure.
Okay. Because I had the same, my notes say the same thing, like exactly the same,
You
like
wanna know why?
question mark, what?
You wanna know what it is? It's
Mm,
because she's a scientist. So, yes, she knows the
obviously.
answer.
That's right. Women in STEM. Okay. So, okay. Also, let me just tell you, they're in this van. They get to this like it looks like a construction site or like a new development, something like that. Factories. Maybe it's the slaughter. I don't know. It's somewhere. Okay. Looks like a construction site to me. But there's like a hole with a ladder. I didn't realize there was a ladder. There's a hole going down into like basically a bunker. Let's just call it that. The cronies, instead of letting Blade and Karen walk down or go down the ladder, they yeet them down the hole, dude.
Yeah,
I was
they
like,
hit
why you
hard.
gotta do it like that? Like they just throw him
Yeah.
and they land down this like hole.
Yeah, they end up in basically this temple that they're taking them to, this hidden temple. It's cylinder shaped. It looks just like the diagram that we saw on Pearl's computer. Okay.
Mhm.
Quinn, to add insult to injury, is wearing Blade's sunglasses now. And he's like, thanks for the
He
glasses.
he's wearing his sunglasses, and do you notice that he's dressed a little bit more like it's a special occasion, and he kinda
Yeah.
has a dated that sort of dated pop collar. You know, when you typically think of a vampire, you think of those, like, rich ruby colors, right? The dark reds, the pop collar, the black vest, like, that is what he is vibing with right now, right? He wants to look good, I'm assuming, for Lamarga, or Lam is that the god's name, Lamarga?
I think it's La Magra,
Oh, Lamagra. And then
but
we
either
also
way.
see we see some of the vampire board members are also there, and we are in the Temple of Eternal Night. And I don't know if you noticed this, but this whole thing reminded me so much of Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods had to have taken so much from this because that's really what it reminded me
Yes.
of. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there are 12 places around. It also reminded me of 13 Ghosts at the
Yep.
end when they
Mhm.
all the ghosts have to be around that cylinder.
Yep. Yep, exactly.
So the entire temple was built for this moment. This is their ritual. Those 12 vampires, the pure bloods, are there against their will. Frost finds Karen's serum and he thinks it's Blade's serum. So there's a moment where you're like, oh, is he going to take it? Because he wants to be like Blade, but really he's going to die. But he just tells Blade, you're not going to need this anymore. He tosses it away and we don't know where it goes. They tell Karen, don't think we forgot about you. We got something special for you. They throw her into another dark pit. There's a creepy leper looking man down there who comes for her. It's fucking Curtis. It's her ex from the beginning. He's
Dude.
not turned all the way. We hear Quinn or whoever else is taking her to this pit, something about like, yeah, he almost looks like a zombie. So it's like he's turning, but something fucked up happened. And now he's like
Mhm.
a zombie vampire creature. He's like decaying. You know who he reminded me of? He reminded me of Julius from Vampire in Brooklyn. But Julius
100%,
was a
dude.
familiar, right?
Mhm. Julius was a familiar, yeah.
He
No,
just kept falling
100%.
apart.
Yeah, he kept falling. Yeah, Curtis looks a little bit rough. Curtis is looking a little like he's had a hard time. Can I also say that Quinn punches Blade in the face at one point? Okay. And the scene is so fucking crazy because it looks like Frost is about to like kill Quinn. Like there's this thing where he's kind of like, "Yeah, put your arm out. Yeah, put your arm out, put your hand out." And then Quinn is like super scared. And he's like, "Oh, but I just got it back. I just got it back," you know? And but he ends up not hurting him. But the point I'm making is again, like Deacon is so scary. Like the way that he was like, "Well, put your arm out." I'm just kidding. And then Quinn's like, "Oh, see, he's just fucking with it's just attention." I'm sorry, I just had to point that out.
He's sadistic.
Yeah, sadistic. Yes, but Quinn weirdly really trusts him and I they just seem like cousins to me. Anyway.
Yeah. Cousins, siblings, that weird dynamic.
Mhm.
So Blade is not well, right? The thirst is starting to
Mhm.
take over. And there are two men holding him, and his mother comes up, Vanessa. And did we already mention that Frost is the one that bit Vanessa initially in the hospital, too?
Yes.
Okay. She takes a knife and she cuts Blade's shirt off. This okay, from now on, the whole dynamic between Vanessa and Blade is so weirdly sexual, and
Dude,
the only thing I can
dude.
think of as to why is because vampires are often like overly sexualized for some reason, like they're just kind of oozing with sexuality, and maybe the fact that she's not a human anymore means, I don't know, that she doesn't see him as her son. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really weird. It reminded me of fucking Sleepwalkers. It's really weird here. Like the whole thing, like she strokes his face. And they strap him into what looks like a coffin that has like his body. Uh how do I describe it? I was even having a hard time describing it in
Me
my
too.
notes.
It's like an
It
action figure that it has a perfectly cut out spot for it, like in styrofoam
Yes,
or something.
exactly. That's exactly like a cutout spot for his body. And they strap him in there. And she walks up to him. She does call him Eric, but like she's kind of touching him and being real weird. In my notes, I said, please stop. She tells him that the vampires are her people and she's one of them now, right? And the whole thing is just very oddly sexual. Then she presses a button and the other side of the coffin closes. So now Blade is enclosed in this giant contraption gimmick.
Yeah.
And all of the vampires can hear this contraption doing its thing. And then the coffin starts bleeding Blade out. Okay. So, whatever that contraption is, it's forcing him to bleed, and the blood is pooling into a funnel that's moving through the walls and down into the pit. Okay. And we kind of see an elevator now rising up from the pit. And Karen makes it all the way to the top. Blade's eyes are still open as he's bleeding out. And then we look out and we cut to outside and there's like a storm brewing. So there's like some crazy shit going on here. There's definitely like some kind of sacrifice or bloodletting.
Yeah.
Bloodletting, yes.
The contraption that he's in reminds me of the medieval torture device. I believe it's called an Iron Maiden. So it's like it looks like
Yes.
an upright sarcophagus, but it has spikes inside. Ugh. I mean, it has
Dude,
some kind of blades inside, right? Because it's cutting him.
Karen approaches this bloodletting coffin that Blade's in. Okay. And then we're going to cut over to one of the board members talking shit to Mercury and basically saying that this whole thing is fucking stupid. Okay. I'm editorializing, but that's kind of the gist of that's what he's trying to say. Right. And she challenges him and says, okay, well, if you don't think any of this is going to work, then why the fuck are you sweating so much if you don't believe it? Right. She calls him out for being scared. And then another board member tells Mercury that she's just going to die like the rest of them anyways. Like you're dead too, bitch, you know? And she didn't like that very much, so she kills him with her gigantic sword and she like hits him with it and then kicks it into him and then he kind of goes flying and he's dead so she's pissed.
Yeah, Karen ends up freeing Blade from the contraption.
Dude, question for you. How in the fuck did Karen have the strength to turn Blade's entire contraption coffin around? Because
Did
that
she
blew me. I'm like, is there a button? Did she press a button? There
That's
had
what I
to have
was
been a
wondering.
button.
Did she just press the same button that his mom pressed to undo it?
Maybe she pressed a button because I must have looked down because when I looked up, I was like, how in the fuck did Karen just move that? Okay.
She had to have pressed the button. I think I missed that little detail too, but there's no way she just pried it open with her hands, you know?
Right, right, right.
But she takes her band-aids off her neck and tells Blade to take some of her blood because he's dying. He is not well. Blade is trying to resist, but eventually he cannot resist the thirst, just like Vanessa was telling him when she was like rubbing her face all over his face. This scene is also so sexual. The imagery, the sounds, like
hmm
there's no way they weren't trying to simulate sex with this scene. He's biting her neck. There's a lot of other things happening that we kind of cut back and forth to, but they're even like he's even
hmm
grabbing her like in a thrusting like way, and Laura's face, she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh my."
I just hit the mic. Yes. I was like, okay, what's happening here?
Oh my. Like they didn't want to put in a sex scene with them, but they wanted to make sure they got in something similar, you know?
Yeah. hmm
Now back in the ritual room, I don't know what else to call it, the
hmm
12 are getting blood dripped on their heads while all this is happening. So whatever Blade blood was drained from Blade, they each get like a drop on their heads. And
Mhm.
Karen is simultaneously telling Blade, okay, enough, like you can stop now. But he is kind of overcome by that thirst. All of this is like, it was a lot. Uh, while we see a blood drip, like it all comes to the center where Deacon is, and it drips onto his head, like one drop, and it hits him like he sells it like he gets shot almost. Because
Yeah.
this ritual is all coming together. Eventually, Blade does break free from this thirst and just starts screaming.
Mhm.
And at that moment, Vanessa walks into the room and says, "How was it?" And then starts trying to fight him.
Yeah. And Karen gets away here. She kind of gets up, she gets away, and lightning hits Blade's coffin and electrocutes the board members, dude. This is crazy. Cuz the
Yeah.
board members all turn into like skeletal bat demon things. Why am I
Mhm.
what is this is not what they look like. For some you if anyone watching on YouTube can see my arms right now, this is not what they look like.
That
But they
looks like
turn
a
into these like
bat. It looks like a bat on a string, like the old.
like the old Dracula one, yeah. And
Yeah.
like Deacon's like really, really pumped, you know what I mean? Um, obviously. Karen moves up on one of the vampires and steals a shotgun. I think that's what it is. I don't know guns, but I'm guessing it's a shotgun.
It's
And she
some kind of
kicks this
rifle.
it's some kind of rifle. She kicks the vampire into the pit, right? And as because the electricity has hit them, they start convulsing, the vampires, they turn into these like bat things, they fly off, right? Well, they're kind of flying off. They're kind of flying and surrounding Deacon, sort
Yeah.
of, right? Like, Blade ends up cornering Vanessa, and she tries one more time to sort of manipulate him, but he
Did
tells her, "I
you
must release you."
did you feel here like she randomly had a New York accent even though she didn't the entire time she was talking? She's
A
like,
little
"I'm
bit,
your
yeah.
mother. I'm your
So
mother."
because I think she was trying to go back to the version of her
Being
that
a
knew him
human.
back then. Yes,
Yeah.
and I think she was
Well,
trying to manipulate him,
yeah. Maybe.
and he or she fucked her accent up. I don't know. I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. But
Yeah.
as he ends up killing her, he says, I must release you."
Mhm.
He kills her, and then this is when the crazy transformation with all the vamps happen. Also, these vampires that are like the flying things that are like flying around Deacon and stuff, his eyes turn like red
Yeah.
and he's launched like backwards. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and when these, like, CGI skeletons with wings start ripping out of all the 12's bodies and just start flying around, we know that something scary is happening even for the vampires because Mercury starts trying to run here. She's like, "Oh," like, she's trying to hide. She ends up finding Deacon and calls for him, and he says, "Not anymore." He's not Deacon anymore. He is La Magra,
Mhm.
the blood
Mhm.
god.
Yep.
And now that
Yep.
Blade's mother, Vanessa, has disintegrated, he is ready to fight. He does this
Dude.
crazy flip into the room, like, I don't even know, like he's on a vault or something, lands in the middle of this ritual room. Quinn is like, "I got 2 new hands, Blade. I don't know which one to use to kill you with." He runs at Blade. Blade just cuts him in half midair, and then the
He
music kicks in. The
immediately, dude. The
Yes,
fucking music.
yes. Oh my gosh, Quinn.
Yo. Yo, Blade is just beating the shit out of all the cronies, dude. It's
When Blade because when Quinn gets cut in half, his
yeah.
glasses, Blade's glasses go flying off of Quinn. When Blade catches them in midair and that music hits, I was like, "Oh shit!"
Dude, I was so hyped, man. It's like in Mortal Kombat when the music kicks in and you're just like,
Yes.
"Let's go." So, Blade is kicking ass. It's wicked,
Can
okay?
I
And you
tell
really
you
do see yeah,
can I tell you what I wrote?
yeah.
Long story short, Blade beats the fuck out of everyone. That could literally be like the end of the movie, like, and scene, like, and
And
done.
see no, it's true. It's true. He just beats the shit out of everyone. And as this is happening, Karen is trying to shoot Mercury, but is missing, which she doesn't know how to shoot a gun, so that's fair. They go to fight, but Karen sprays her in the mouth with the garlic elixir mace, and her fucking head explodes, dude. She's dead. She
Yeah.
dead. Blade is still kicking ass. And then I put in capital letters, "Yo, Blade has his sword."
Because finally, it is time for Blade versus Deacon one on one, even though Deacon is Lamagra, but still. They start with a sword fight, my friend. Blade chops his arm off and
Yep.
then goes to chop him in half. His whole body stretches and like there's like you can see like red, like the blood in between, and then comes back together.
Yep.
Blade looks at the camera and mouths, "What the fuck?" Which
It's
was so
awesome.
funny. So
Love
like
it.
what's the word I'm looking for?
Meta. Meta,
Yes.
baby. Yeah.
He tells Blade, "You're too late," and immediately regenerates. Now he's fucking Blade up.
Mhm. So Blade's got the serum in his hand now, and he throws one at Deacon. Just as Deacon is like pouncing onto Blade, he's hit with every single one of those serums, which are like big ass needles.
Yeah.
Okay. And this does not bode well for our friend Deacon. His fucking head explodes. But before he does, Blade looks at him and says, "Some motherfuckers are always trying to skate uphill." And apparently, Wesley Snipes described Deacon Frost as the kind of guy who ice skates uphill. And Stephen Norrington and David Goyer loved it so much that they added that line to the script, which I thought was really
Okay.
fun. So
He like
then,
roundhouse kicks the last one into his head, right?
yes, and that's why he explodes. I could do
Yeah.
without the CGI. And the only thing I will say about this one CGI scene is two things, okay? Number one, there's not a drop of blood on Blade. Okay,
Yeah.
this guy exploded in front of him. And number two, originally they were gonna have Deacon turn into a big CGI blob, like red blob with Deacon's, like with the actor's face on it. That was the original like fight sequence. And I guess it did so badly with test audiences that they took it out. Thank God.
So how would you describe what he turns into then? Or did I see a different version? Because I saw one where he does turn into a blob.
What?
What
I
did you
I
see?
saw his whole head like explode, like his head gets all big and blobby and he explodes.
I said, "Oh my God, he turns into the thing slash society slash the substance and explodes." Maybe it was just his
Yeah.
head. Okay.
Sorry, because what I'm describing is like I'm talking like a huge ass, big ass, like red,
Okay.
with his head on it. Like it would have
Okay.
just been a huge CGI mess, I think. And
Okay.
they were like, no, no, we're not doing that. Thank God, because that would have been. We needed that fight, man. We needed that fucking fight, and it
Yeah.
was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, so Blade and Karen, they escape, they get out onto the roof, and Blade tells Karen, keep your cure, there's still more work to do." And he tells her, "If you want to help, make me a better serum." Now we fade into Moscow. We see a vampire about to attack a woman. It looks like a date, but then it turns out he's about to attack her. Blade shows up, speaking what I assume here is Russian, but I guess it could also be the vampire language because I don't speak either. And Blade whips out his blade and we roll the credits. That is the end of the first Blade movie.
Dude, what a fucking movie. I dropped a lot of F-bombs this one because I was so excited. But
I
what a movie. I loved it. I loved it so much.
So we mentioned earlier that a new Blade is supposed to come out, a fourth one. This is Blade, the first one, is one of the rare movies that I would say I would actually like to see a remake of just for the better special effects, the more modernized CGI that we have now. Um, like I said earlier, I forgive any of the early CGI from 98. They did their best with what they had. It does look
Mhm.
different to us now in 2026, but I
Mhm.
don't think it affects this movie because the rest of it was just done so well. And they do use a lot of practical effects. They do have some really bomb ass fight scenes.
Yeah.
But I actually wouldn't mind seeing this one remade. And normally I
Hmm.
don't want to see movies remade. I'm like, no, just leave them. But I guess also
Yeah.
because there are so many sequels, we don't really need a remake of the first one necessarily. They're just adding to it at this point.
Yeah. I would love to see Wesley Snipes as Blade again, of course.
Yeah.
I really love the movie. I think, yeah, I would love an updated CG, but I still think it holds up really well, like surprisingly well,
Yeah.
this movie. And I'm not a huge Marvel gal, I'm not gonna lie. Like I've seen all the Avengers, I've seen a lot of the movies. I'm not a huge Marvel person. I like some of them, but I don't know. I've seen so many that it's like after Thanos, what else what else can we, you know what I mean? But I loved Blade. I thought it was great. Um, so Marv Wolfman was the creator of Blade. He was the author, and I just really quickly, I just wanted to like touch on. I just wanted to quote something that I found that he was like
Yeah.
talking about. But so he developed the character in the Blade, like in the comics, okay? And he says, quote, "One of the promises I made to myself was for the next character that I created would be a black character, like the character for Teen Titans, because I didn't think black characters were represented at all in comics to any great degree. I came up with Blade. It came to me literally in a second. I'm not joking. I had just gotten into the Dracula assignment and I wasn't thinking about anything. Suddenly, the character came full blown. I knew exactly who he was and what he looked like, and I knew everything about him."
I love that.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. So Marv Wolfman wrote the character, he kind of created the character, and then Gene Colan penciled or like drew him as a comic. And just some
Yeah.
like really quick, just some like very small differences between the comic and the films.
Yeah.
In the comic, his mother's name is Tara Cross Brooks, and his father's name is Lucas Cross. Actually, I don't know if Brooks is even the last name. I'd have to double check that. But the mother, or sorry, Blade was born in a brothel in London,
Mhm.
and his mother was, well, in the movie it's Vanessa, but Tara, and she goes to see someone for help, and she was experiencing like labor pains, and a doctor shows up, and the doctor ends up being Deacon, who kills her by drinking all of her blood, and then this inadvertently passed along the vampire enzymes into her baby son as he was born, which is very interesting because I guess they retconned Blade because when he originally came into the comics, he was not born like half vampire.
Ooh,
Yeah, they retconned him a
interesting.
little bit. Originally, he was a human, and then they turned him into the half one for the animated series, the half vampire for
Okay.
the animated series. Yeah, so that was kind of neat.
Yeah, that is. I also remember reading that because I'm not a big Marvel or comic book person either, but I always enjoy the
Hmm.
movies when I do watch them.
Sure.
That Deacon was not bitten by a vampire in the comics. He was injected
Oh.
with vampire blood, and I believe he was trying to inject someone else that he kidnapped, but then there was a scuffle, and then he accidentally got injected by it, so then he became a vampire. Also, I meant to say this
Whoa.
earlier, Pearl is not from the comics. Pearl was created
Mhm.
for the movie.
I love it. Pearl is such a fucking gross blob.
Yeah, when
What
you're
a great
eating
movie, though.
children, we can say that. Uh,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
in Blade 2, this is the only thing, obviously, I did not, well, maybe not obviously, but I did not watch the full Blade 2 yet.
Okay.
But I was going to say, obviously, we're not covering Blade 2, but I just wanted to say this because Whistler in the second one survives. He survives that gunshot somehow. And a lot of people do take issue with that a little bit. He ends up getting
Mm.
kidnapped. I won't give spoilers, I guess, for the second one, but he's being held captive by the vampires. So I guess they're trying to say that he survived this gunshot, and the vampires ended up kidnapping him instead. But because the thing is, Blade walks away, right? We hear a gunshot. It could have been maybe he was going to kill himself, and a vampire showed up, and we didn't see that. But we see his arm fall with the gun, so there's that part. Maybe he was
They're
attacked.
retconning. They're
Yeah.
just retconning.
So
It's
some
a
people
Marvel
have feelings
movie.
about that, you know,
Yeah, it's like there's no what is it called? Continuity. They want to keep the character like we'll find a way to bring him back.
which I understand why they want to bring Whistler back. I mean,
For
a
sure.
lot of people love
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
So at the time, studios were still viewing comic book adaptations as kid movies or very campy. So they were
Mm.
looked down upon, similar to how horror has been looked down upon for so long. So it was a really big deal to make this movie. And it was a big deal with how well it did at the box office.
And that was Blade. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode as much as we did. You can follow us on social media at Chainsaw Girls Pod. We're on Instagram and TikTok. You can also watch this on YouTube every Monday at noon. Then we also have a Patreon, and we're about to shout out our top tier patrons. We love you guys and appreciate you all so much. Take it away, AK.
All right, we got Jason M, Jeremy M, Brian C, John M, Devin C, David G, another John M, John W, Rob V, David T, Heather D, Franchise Driller, Millie C, Chris S, Alexis T, Adam VL, and James C. Do y'all know the rhythm of that list yet? Because I'm getting there. Thank you all so much. We love you and appreciate you.
Okay,
Okay, bye.
bye.